The cry in the night. Ethan Carter was used to silence. Living on the outskirts of the colony world Gavros 7, he liked the quiet. No city noise, no people bothering him. Just the wind howling through the trees and the soft hum of his solar-powered cabin. But tonight, something was wrong. A strange cry broke the night's stillness. Ethan sat up in bed, his heart pounding. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't human either. It was something else. The sound was soft, but filled with pain. He grabbed his pulse rifle from the bedside table and moved to the door. The colony wasn't exactly safe. Strange things lurked in the forests. The last thing he wanted was to be unprepared. Slowly, he unlocked the door and pushed it open. The cold night air rushed in, sending a shiver down his spine. The twin moons of Gavros 7 shone brightly, casting long shadows over the ground. He stepped onto the wooden porch and froze. Right there, lying on his doorstep, was a small glowing cocoon. It pulsed softly, as if something alive was inside. And then the cry came again, from inside the cocoon. Ethan swallowed hard. His hands tightened around the rifle. This was bad. Something, or someone, had left this strange alien baby at his door. He crouched down, scanning the area. The forest's edge was dark, shifting with movement. Someone was watching him. His eyes darted back to the cocoon. Carefully, he reached out and touched it. It was warm, soft, alive. The baby inside was breathing fast, weak, struggling. Next to the cocoon, something metallic glinted in the moonlight. A note, written in an alien language. Ethan picked it up, but the symbols made no sense to him. He turned it over. On the back, there was a single line written in rough human letters. "Protect her. They are coming." His blood turned cold. A sudden click broke the silence. Ethan spun around, his rifle raised. He barely caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure slipping into the trees. It was humanoid but moved too fast to be human. The baby let out another weak cry, breaking his focus. Ethan looked down at the small, helpless life in front of him. Whoever left her wanted her safe. But from what? His security system blared to life. A loud warning beep that meant one thing. Something, or someone, was approaching. Fast. Ethan grabbed the cocoon and rushed inside, locking the door behind him. The moment he did, his motion sensors picked up multiple moving figures surrounding his house. His instincts screamed at him. Trouble was coming. But he had already made his decision. No matter what happened next, he wasn't going to let them take her. Hunted by the unknown. Ethan's breath came fast as he crouched near the window, his rifle clutched tightly in his hands. Outside, shadows moved between the trees, fast and silent. His security system had picked up at least 3 unidentified figures, maybe more. The strange alien baby was still in the glowing cocoon, lying on his small wooden table. She had stopped crying, but her tiny chest rose and fell quickly, as if she could sense the danger outside. Ethan swallowed hard. Who were they? Why were they after her? He glanced down at the cryptic note again. "Protect her. They are coming." A loud thud against the door made his muscles tense. Something, or someone, was testing his defenses. Ethan had no time to think. His cabin was sturdy, built to survive the wilds of Gavros 7, but it wasn't a fortress. If these things outside were armed, it was only a matter of time before they broke in. He needed a plan. Fast. The tracker. A deadly beacon. Ethan's eyes darted back to the glowing cocoon. The baby's soft light pulsed rhythmically. Then he noticed something that made his stomach drop. A small device was embedded near the base of the cocoon. A tracker. His pulse spiked. That was how they had found her so fast. He grabbed his hunting knife and quickly cut the tracker loose, pulling it away from the cocoon's surface. As soon as he held it up, the small red light on it blinked rapidly, sending out a signal. Then, it was still active. Without wasting a second, Ethan rushed to the back door and flung it open. The cool night air hit him as he hurled the tracker deep into the forest. Then he waited. A few seconds passed. Then, movement. The shadows near his cabin turned toward the forest. They had taken the bait. A deep, inhuman clicking sound filled the air, followed by fast-moving shapes disappearing into the woods. A small window to escape. Ethan exhaled sharply. He had bought himself time. But he still had a problem. He couldn't stay here. They would realize the trick soon and return. His only choice was to run. But where? The colony's main settlement was too far, and even if he reached it, would they even help? The colony officials didn't trust aliens. They barely tolerated Ethan himself. No, he needed to go somewhere else, somewhere off-grid. And then an idea hit him. There was an abandoned cargo transport about 6 miles west, hidden deep in the forest. The old ship had been grounded for years, forgotten by most. But Ethan knew it still had working life support systems. It wasn't much, but it was a start. He grabbed his backpack, stuffing it with essentials, ammo, rations, a portable medkit, and a small holo device. Then, carefully, he lifted the cocoon into his arms. It was lighter than he expected, but warm, almost alive. The baby inside let out a small, tired noise, barely clinging to consciousness. "We're getting out of here, kid," Ethan murmured. "Hold on." Into the night. Moving quickly, he slipped out the back door and into the dense trees. The night was pitch black, the twin moons hidden behind thick clouds. Every step he took was careful, silent. He knew how to move in the wild. The hunters weren't the only danger here. Strange predators roamed Gavro 7, creatures that didn't care if their prey was human or alien. And right now, Ethan was carrying the shining beacon of attention in his arms. The baby's glow was faint, but it was enough to make him nervous. The first attack. Half an hour into the trek, Ethan paused. He had the eerie feeling of being washed again. Slowly, he set the cocoon down and pressed himself against a tree, rifle ready. The forest wasn't silent anymore. Something was moving behind him. Then, without warning, a shadow leaped at him. Ethan rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the sharp metallic blade that sliced through the air where his head had been. A tall, thin creature stood before him, barely visible in the darkness. It had 4 long limbs, each ending in razor-sharp claws. Its eyes gleamed like silver, reflecting the faint glow of the cocoon. One of the hunters. The creature let out a low, clicking sound and lunged again. Ethan fired. The energy bolt slammed into its shoulder, making it shriek and stagger backward. But it wasn't dead. No, this thing was fast. Too fast. Ethan grabbed the cocoon and ran. Branches whipped at his face as he sprinted through the forest, heart hammering. The alien chased him, moving through the trees like a shadow, barely making a sound. He needed to lose it. Up ahead, he saw a small rocky ledge. Without hesitation, he jumped, landing hard on the other side. The creature skidded to a stop, watching him. Then, it turned and disappeared into the trees. Ethan didn't stop to think. He kept running. The abandoned transport. Finally, after what felt like hours, Ethan saw it. The old cargo transport, its metallic hull covered in vines. His legs burned as he stumbled toward the entrance. The ship's door was still functional, though rusted from years of neglect. He slammed the override panel, forcing it open with a painful screech. He stepped inside, locking the door behind him. Darkness swallowed him. For a long moment, he just stood there, catching his breath. Then, a voice spoke from the shadows. "I know what you're hiding, human." Ethan's heart stopped. Someone was already here. The hidden past of the alien baby. Ethan stood frozen, rifle raised, staring at the shadowy figure emerging from the darkness of the abandoned transport. The voice had been clear, deep, confident, watching him. "I know what you're hiding, human." The dim emergency lights flickered on, revealing a tall, gaunt alien standing just a few feet away. He was not like the hunters outside. His eyes were intelligent, glowing with a soft amber hue. His long fingers twitched at his sides, but he held no weapon. Ethan's muscles stayed tense. "Who are you?" he demanded, stepping forward slightly, but keeping his finger on the trigger. The alien tilted his head. "The more important question is, do you know what you are carrying?" His gaze drifted toward the glowing cocoon still cradled in Ethan's arms. The baby shifted slightly, making a tiny sound. The soft light pulsing from her body illuminated the stranger's face, revealing deep scars running across his forehead and down his neck. "I asked you a question," Ethan said coldly. "Are you with them? The ones hunting this child?" The alien exhaled sharply, his thin lips curling. "If I was with them, human, you would already be dead." Ethan didn't lower the rifle. He had been through too much tonight to trust anyone so easily. The alien raised his hands in a non-threatening gesture. "My name is Pharaohs, and I am the only reason you are not already surrounded by those hunters." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "Explain." Pharaohs stepped closer, his movements slow, deliberate. "I disabled the tracker you foolishly threw into the forest." He let out a small, amused breath. "A smart move, but not enough. They would have still followed your trail." Ethan's jaw clenched. So this guy had been watching him. "You led them away then?" Ethan asked. Pharaohs nodded. "For now." Ethan exhaled, glancing down at the small cocoon in his arms. The baby had gone still again, but he could feel their gentle warmth through his jacket. "Fine," Ethan said. "Then you can tell me what the hell this thing is." Pharaoh's expression darkened. "She is not a thing, human," he said. "She is the last of her kind. The baby's true identity." Pharaohs gestured for Ethan to follow him deeper into the old ship. "Come, you need to understand what you are involved in." Ethan hesitated but eventually moved forward, keeping the baby close. The inside of the transport was dusty and worn, filled with old crates and broken equipment. Strange symbols were scrawled across the walls. Ethan didn't recognize the language, but something about them felt ancient. Pharaohs stopped near a holographic display, tapping a few buttons on a rusted console. A flickering image appeared in the air. Ethan stared in shock as he saw an entire alien civilization. Great cities stretching under twin suns, towering spires, golden streets filled with people of the same species as the baby. "This was her home," Pharaohs said quietly. "A world known as Vareth." Ethan's grip on the cocoon tightened. "Was?" Pharaohs turned, his expression grim. "It is gone now." The hologram shifted, showing burning ruins, collapsed buildings, and enormous warships hovering over the destruction. Ethan felt his stomach sink. What happened? Pharaoh's gaze darkened. Genocide. The warlords of the Zervest Dominion declared her people a threat to galactic balance. They exterminated them, burned their worlds, erased them from history. Ethan looked down at the baby. She was so small, so fragile. Yet, she was the only one left. "She's the last?" Ethan asked. Pharaohs nodded. "Her mother must have been one of the few survivors. But the Dominion will not stop until every trace of her people is wiped from existence." Ethan let out a slow breath. "This just got a whole lot worse." "They'll never stop hunting her," he muttered. "No," Pharaohs confirmed. "And now, human, you are part of this." The baby's awakening. Before Ethan could reply, the cocoon in his arms suddenly shuddered. A bright pulse of energy rippled through the air, sending a deep vibration through the ship. Ethan nearly dropped the cocoon, stepping back as a strange golden mist seeped from it, swirling around his arms. "What the hell?" Pharaoh's eyes widened. "She's awakening." The cocoon's soft shell cracked, and Ethan felt his heart hammer in his chest. A tiny hand emerged first, small but glowing, fingers curling slightly as if reaching for him. Then, slowly, a delicate alien face appeared, her deep silver eyes blinking open for the first time. She looked straight at Ethan, and he felt something in his mind shift. A strange warmth flooded his chest, and for a second, he wasn't in the transport anymore. He was somewhere else. A vast, endless sky stretched before him, filled with twin suns and golden clouds. He heard whispers, soft voices speaking in a language he didn't understand, but somehow he felt their meaning. Protect her. You are chosen. Then, as fast as it began, it was gone. Ethan staggered back, blinking rapidly. The baby let out a soft, musical sound, her tiny hand still reaching for him. She bonded with you, Veros said, his voice filled with awe and disbelief. Ethan stared down at the small, glowing child now resting in his arms. What does that mean? He asked. Veros took a slow breath. It means, he said, that you are now the only one who can truly protect her. The mother's return. The old cargo ship's alarms blared, shaking the rusted hull with each warning siren. Ethan's pulse spiked as he and Veros exchanged tense looks. They found us, Ethan said, gripping his rifle tighter. Veros' amber eyes flickered. No. They were led here. Ethan turned sharply. What do you mean? But before he could finish, the viewport flashed with blinding white light. Outside, dozens of armored figures emerged from the tree line. Their sleek, dark suits gleamed under the floodlights of a low-hovering gunship, its engines whining as it descended. The hunters had come prepared. Ethan's mind raced. No way out. The ship's old thrusters were dead. They couldn't fly. There was no back exit. He glanced at Veros. Any bright ideas? Veros' expression was unreadable. I am thinking. Think faster. The baby in Ethan's arms stirred, her tiny glowing fingers twitching. Ethan could feel her warmth against his chest, a strange sensation pulsing from her small form. Then, without warning, a loud voice echoed through the ship's speakers. Surrender the child, and you will be spared. The tone was mechanical, lacking emotion. Cold. Ruthless. Ethan gritted his teeth. They're bluffing. No, Veros said, his face grim. They never bluff. Ethan's eyes flicked back to the viewport. One of the hunters, a tall figure clad in obsidian black armor, stepped forward, carrying a strange, curved blade in one hand. The weapon hummed with energy, pulsing with an unnatural glow. Ethan exhaled. That's a Dan executioner's weapon. They will take the child, Veros said, then kill you. Ethan's jaw clenched. Not happening. The mother's return. Suddenly, boom. An explosion rocked the gunship, sending a shockwave through the trees. Fire and metal rained from the sky, and the hunters scattered in confusion. What the hell? The final stand. Ethan gritted his teeth. We're trapped. There's no way out. The alien mother's gaze flicked toward the ceiling. There is one. Ethan followed her line of sight. The ship's emergency escape hatch. Veros narrowed his eyes. That thing hasn't been used in decades. We don't have another choice, she said. Ethan exhaled. Okay, but what about them? He gestured toward the army outside. The alien mother's eyes darkened. I will handle them. Ethan's brows furrowed. Alone? Are you insane? She gave him a small, sad smile. I have been running for too long. It is time I fight. Ethan hated this plan, but there was no time to argue. The ship shook again. The hunters were cutting through the outer hull. The alien mother placed a gentle hand on the baby's glowing cocoon. Take her, she whispered. Keep her safe. Ethan felt a strange weight in his chest as she turned and strode toward the entrance. Then she opened the door. The hunters poured inside, weapons raised. The alien mother lifted her arms, and for the first time, Ethan saw the true power of her kind. A blinding wave of golden energy erupted from her, knocking the hunters backward. The ground shook beneath them as lightning-like tendrils ripped through the air, shattering armor, sending bodies flying. Ethan didn't hesitate. He grabbed the baby, turned to Veros, and yanked the escape hatch lever. The old metal groaned, then shot open, revealing a dark drop into the forest below. Ethan didn't think. He jumped. Escaped from the killers. Ethan's body plunged through the darkness, wind roaring in his ears. The baby's glowing cocoon was pressed tight against his chest, her soft warmth the only thing grounding him. The old cargo ship shrunk above him, its metal frame illuminated by blaster fire and the flashing lights of the hunter ships. And then, boom! A powerful shockwave exploded from above as the alien mother unleashed her full power, sending hunters flying in all directions. The ship's hull shattered, and debris rained down all around Ethan. But he didn't have time to think about her, because he was still falling. Crash landing. The forest rushed up to meet him, the thick canopy breaking into a blur of twisting shadows and flickering moonlight. Ethan twisted his body, trying to position himself for impact. He tucked the baby tightly against him, shielding her with his own body. Then, impact. He slammed through the first layer of trees, branches snapping like bones. Pain ripped through his shoulder as he hit another branch, then another, until finally he crashed hard into the muddy ground below. His vision blurred, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Everything ached. But the baby, she was still safe in his arms. Ethan rolled onto his back, blinking up at the trees. His pulse pounded in his ears. He needed to move. Fast. Because he wasn't alone. The hunters arrive. A low, mechanical whine echoed in the night air. Ethan's head snapped up. Hovering just beyond the treetops was a small scouting drone, its red optical lens scanning the area. Damn it. They had already sent trackers. He forced himself up, ignoring the pain in his ribs. The baby let out a soft, musical sigh, her little hand curling against his chest. She didn't seem afraid. She trusted him. Ethan clenched his jaw. "We gotta move, kid." Without wasting another second, he bolted into the forest, hunted in the dark. The trees loomed high above, casting long, shifting shadows. The forest was alive with distant chirps, growls, and rustling movement. Ethan kept his pace steady, weaving between trees, keeping his footfalls quiet. He had spent years surviving in the wild. He knew how to stay hidden. But these hunters, they weren't just any soldiers. They were the Dominion's elite trackers. And they were already closing in. Ethan heard it first, the low, rhythmic clicking that sent a chill crawling up his spine. Then, a sharp whisper of movement. Ethan ducked just as a blade whizzed past his head, embedding itself deep into a tree trunk. He spun, rifle raised. Nothing. But they were there, watching, waiting. A slow, measured voice cut through the darkness. "You are delaying the inevitable, human." Ethan's grip tightened on his weapon. Then, a shadow lunged from the darkness. Ethan fired. The energy blast lit up the night, striking the attacker midair. The creature shrieked, its black armor glowing red-hot from the impact before it collapsed into the dirt. But there were more. A second figure dropped from the trees, claws slashing toward Ethan's throat. He barely dodged, rolling to the side. The baby let out a tiny, startled sound, her glow pulsing rapidly. Then, something unexpected happened. The baby's glow intensified, brightening like a miniature sun. The entire forest lit up, revealing at least 5 more hunters surrounding them. Ethan's heart pounded. The baby's power was reacting to the danger. And for a split second, the hunters hesitated. The mysterious rescuers. Then, the night erupted with new gunfire. Blaster bolts ripped through the trees, striking the hunters with deadly precision. Ethan froze. More figures appeared in the darkness. But these weren't the Dominion's killers. These were different. Ragged clothing, mismatched armor, weapons too advanced to belong to common mercenaries. Rebels? Smugglers? One of them, a tall figure in a long coat, stepped forward. His face was hidden beneath a tinted visor, and his voice was deep, rough. "You're lucky we found you first, human." Ethan didn't lower his gun. "Who the hell are you?" The man gestured toward the baby. "We're the only ones who can keep that child alive." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "And why should I trust you?" The man chuckled. "Because if we wanted you dead, you'd already be in the dirt." Ethan glanced around at the dead hunters, their bodies cooling under the moonlight. Damn it. He had no other options. He sighed, adjusting the baby in his arms. "Fine. But if you try anything, I'll put a hole through your head." The man grinned beneath his visor. "I'd expect nothing less." The baby's power awakens. The night air was thick with tension as Ethan followed the mysterious group through the darkened forest. His ribs ached from the fall, but he didn't slow down. The baby, the last hair of Vareth, was curled in his arms, still glowing faintly. Her soft, rhythmic pulses of light had dimmed after the chaos, but she remained calm, as if she somehow understood the danger around them. Ethan wasn't sure what worried him more, the Dominion hunters still lurking in the shadows, or the new group of armed strangers who had just saved him. The man in the visor walked ahead, his long coat swaying with every step. The others moved silently, weapons at the ready. Finally, Ethan spoke. "All right. Who the hell are you people?" The man didn't look back. "We're the only reason you're still breathing." Ethan scowled. "Yeah, I got that. But you didn't answer my question." The man stopped and turned slightly, his visor glinting in the dim moonlight. "We are the ones who don't want the galaxy to burn." Ethan frowned. "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you'll get for now." Ethan clenched his jaw. He had no reason to trust these people, but right now, they were his best shot at survival. The hidden sanctuary. After an hour of trekking through the dense jungle, they arrived at a rocky outcrop. At first, Ethan saw nothing, just solid stone. But then, one of the strangers pressed a hidden panel on the rock wall. A faint hum echoed through the air, and suddenly, the stone shimmered and vanished, revealing a hidden entrance. Ethan exhaled sharply. A cloaked base. One of the rebels smirked. "Welcome to the only place the Dominion can't find." They stepped inside, the air cool and sterile, a sharp contrast to the wild jungle outside. Ethan immediately noticed the advanced technology lining the walls, consoles, holo-displays, and weapons far beyond anything he had seen before. This wasn't just a hideout. It was a war room. The baby stirred softly, blinking up at the strange surroundings. As the doors sealed shut behind them, Ethan turned to the man in the visor. "Now, I want answers. Who are you, and why do you care about this kid?" The man sighed and removed his visor. Ethan blinked in shock. Beneath the mask was a human face, a scared, weathered one, but unmistakably human. "You can call me Kieran Voss," the man said, "and I care about that child because she's the only thing standing between us and a war that will destroy everything. The war for the future." Voss gestured for Ethan to follow him deeper into the base. The halls were lined with alien artifacts, old battle banners, and holographic blueprints of warships. "We're not just some rogue faction," Voss said. "We're the last survivors of the Coalition." Ethan frowned. Coalition. Veros, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. They were an alliance of free worlds until the Dominion crushed them. Voss nodded grimly. "We were supposed to stop them, but we failed." Ethan glanced at the holograms, the images of planets that had been destroyed by the Dominion war machine. "And now?" he asked. Voss turned to look at him. "Now we have one last chance, and that chance is in your arms." Ethan looked down at the baby, her tiny silver eyes watching him with quiet understanding. "She's just a kid," Ethan muttered. "No," Voss said. "She's the heir to a power that can change everything. If we can unlock it." The baby's awakening. Before Ethan could reply, the base's lights flickered. A strange hum filled the air, and suddenly, the baby let out a small echoing sound, a sound that wasn't just a noise, but a vibration through the very fabric of the room. The air around her rippled, and for a moment, every piece of technology in the base flared to life at once. Screens flashed. Holodisplays spun with alien symbols. The walls trembled as if responding to some unseen force. The baby's glow intensified, her tiny body radiating a soft golden aura. Ethan's heart pounded. What the hell is happening? Veros looked stunned. She's activating. Voss' expression hardened. It's her birthright. The power of her people. It's been dormant. Until now. Ethan held the baby tighter. And what does that mean for us? Voss turned to him, his voice deadly serious. It means the Dominion will stop at nothing to kill her. And we're running out of time. The betrayal. Before anyone could say another word, a sudden explosion rocked the base. The alarms blared, red warning lights flashing in every corridor. Voss grabbed a communicator. What the hell was that? A frantic voice crackled through. We've been breached. The Dominion. The transmission cut off in static. Ethan's blood went cold. How? This place was hidden. Then he realized. Someone had betrayed them. Veros' face darkened. There's only one way they could have found us. Ethan clenched his fists. One of your people sold us out. Voss swore under his breath. We need to get the baby out of here. Now. The last stand begins. The ground trembled as another explosion tore through the structure. The doors burst open, and heavily armed Dominion troops poured in, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Ethan's instincts screamed. He turned to Voss. You got an escape plan. Voss pulled out a holomap, showing a series of tunnels leading deep beneath the jungle. There's a secondary exit, but we need to fight our way there. Ethan gritted his teeth. Then let's move. With the baby still glowing in his arms, he charged toward the fight. The final battle for her survival had begun. The final choice, humanity's hero. The hidden base was in chaos. The walls shook as explosions ripped through the underground structure. Fires burned along the corridors, sparks rained from shattered lighting fixtures, and the air was thick with the screams of soldiers and the roar of gunfire. Ethan ran through the chaos, clutching the baby against his chest, his pulse hammering in his ears. The tiny child glowed brighter than ever, her golden light flickering in response to the danger. Behind him, Voss and Veros fought off waves of Dominion troopers, their weapons blazing in rapid bursts of energy. We need to get to the tunnels. Voss shouted over the noise. Ethan nodded, pushing forward. But deep down, he knew, even if they escaped the base, the Dominion wouldn't stop hunting them. No matter where they ran, the enemy would always be one step behind. This wasn't just about running anymore. This was about ending it. The betrayer revealed. As they neared the tunnel entrance, a figure stepped into their path. Ethan skidded to a stop, rifle raised. A Dominion commander, tall, imposing, dressed in dark silver armor, stood in their way, his blade crackling with raw energy. But it wasn't just any soldier. It was one of Voss' own men. You? Voss hissed, eyes blazing with fury. The betrayer smirked. Did you really think you could hide from them forever, Voss? The Dominion rewards loyalty. Ethan felt rage boil in his chest. This traitor had sold them out, had led the enemy straight to the baby. The Dominion commander took a step forward, voice calm. Hand over the child, and you might live. Ethan's grip on the baby tightened. No deal. The commander sighed. Then you die. The final battle. Without another word, the commander lunged. Ethan rolled aside, barely avoiding the deadly arc of the energy blade. The Dominion soldier moved fast, striking again, this time aiming straight for the baby. Ethan blocked with his rifle, the blade slamming into the weapon with a shower of sparks. Then Voss and Veros opened fire. Bolts of blue energy crashed into the commander's armor, staggering him. But he barely flinched, his armor absorbing the damage. Ethan gritted his teeth. They were running out of time. That's when the baby acted. A pulse of golden light erupted from her tiny body, blasting outward in a shockwave of pure energy. The Dominion commander was thrown back, his armor cracking under the force. Ethan's heart raced. The baby, she had just saved them. But she wasn't done yet. Her glow intensified, her small silver eyes locking onto the enemy. And then, Ethan felt it. A deep ancient power flowing through his veins, like he was connected to something far greater than himself. The commander, now struggling to stand, looked at the baby in horrified realization. She's. But before he could finish, her final pulse of energy shattered him into nothing. Silence. The air hummed with residual power. Ethan stood there, stunned, holding the baby in his arms. She blinked up at him, tiny and innocent, yet so much more. Voss let out a slow breath. She's stronger than we thought. Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, but they're not gonna stop coming. Veros stepped forward. Then we end this. The final choice. The tunnel entrance was ahead. Safety. A chance to escape. But Ethan already knew, if they just ran, this cycle would never end. He looked at the baby, the last of her kind, the last hope of an entire lost civilization. Then he looked at the Dominion warship in the sky, and he made his choice. We don't run, Ethan said firmly. We fight. Voss narrowed his eyes. Are you crazy? Ethan turned to him. That ship up there, that's their command vessel. If we take it out, we don't just escape. We send a message. Veros exhaled. It's suicide. Ethan looked down at the baby, her tiny fingers curling around his shirt. Not if we have her. Silence. Then Voss grinned. Well, hell. I like this guy. Storming the warship. Minutes later, they were in the air, hijacking the stolen Dominion gunship and heading straight for the warship above. The baby sat in Ethan's lap, her soft glow spreading through the ship, making the controls respond faster, smoother, like she was one with the systems. This is insane, Veros muttered. Voss grinned. That's what makes it fun. They pierced through the warship's defenses, dodging turrets and enemy fire, landing hard in the main docking bay. Ethan and the others rushed out, blasting through shock troopers, pushing toward the command center. The baby's power grew stronger with each step, lighting their path, disabling enemy weapons, shielding them from attacks. Then they reached it, the control room, the end of the Dominion's reign. Inside, the Dominion admiral stood waiting, flanked by his strongest guards. His reptilian eyes narrowed at the baby. So, the hair lives. Ethan stepped forward. Yeah. And you're about to regret it. The admiral smirked. Do you really think you can stop us? We are infinite. We are unbreakable. Ethan looked at the baby. Then he looked at the ship's power core, humming behind the admiral. He smirked. Not today. You're not. The baby reached out her tiny hand and unleashed her full power. The warship shook violently, its very core cracking apart as golden energy surged through it. The Dominion soldiers collapsed, unable to withstand the force. The admiral staggered, his confident expression twisting in fear. This is impossible. Ethan grinned. No, this is her destiny. The final escape. With the warship collapsing, Ethan and the team rushed back to the stolen gunship, barely escaping this fire consumed the Dominion vessel. As they soared away, the warship erupted in a massive explosion, sending shockwaves through the sky. The Dominion fleet, broken, their reign, shattered. Ethan looked down at the baby, her glowing silver eyes meeting his. She had saved them. She had saved everything. Voss let out a breath. So, what now? Ethan exhaled, cradling the baby in his arms. Now, we build a future. Epilogue. The beginning of a new era. Months later, the galaxy was changing. The Dominion was fractured, leaderless. The resistance was rising. Ethan, now known as the Guardian of the Lost Queen, stood on a new world, looking down at the baby he had sworn to protect. She reached for him, smiling, and he smiled back, because for the first time in a long time, there was hope.